Hi, I'm the Moorlander and this is Moorlander EDC. Today's piece of content is something that I've been looking forward to making for quite some time now. Apart from being a huge backpack and bag fan, I've always been, ever since I was a nipper, being a massive watch fan. Ever since my first Timex watch that I got, back in the 80s. I love the technology that's involved with them. It's just something cool to have on your wrist. I even have a bit of an OCD where if I leave the house and I'm not wearing a watch, I have to wear a watch. It's just being able to know the time if I need to know it. And I feel, I've had quite a few G-Shocks in the past, and I feel that this is the culmination of all of those G-Shocks. So what we're here today to look at is the GX-56BB-1ER, or the King. The King has arrived. So coming from the King of the Moorlands, you all know my regal history, to the King of the Casios. Now this thing is ridiculous. And I mean that in a positive and a good way, obviously. It is ridiculous in every single possible dimension. Back in the early 80s, I think it was 83, that first G-Shock was made because one of the designers at the time dropped his watch and wanted a watch that would withstand drops, that they were a little bit more harder. There was three things that he looked at, can it withstand a drop from 10 meters? Can the battery last for a certain amount of time? Can it go down to 10 bars? What was the other one? And will it withstand temperatures as low as -10? So there were some specific things that they wanted from watch, and that first tough. And back then, G-Shocks were pretty big, radical watches to wear on your wrist. But everybody caught up. Kind of late 90s, early 2000s, lots of other watch manufacturers started to make larger watches, and it came to the point that the G-Shock just wasn't the biggest thing that you could have on your wrist. In steps G-Shock and says, you are not taking that crown from us, not on our watch. And the King turned up. So what the King did, the King took it to the next level. And what we'll do is I'll turn the camera around. Oh, by the way, I've had a new tripod which makes a lot of shooting from certain angles. It's going to make it a whole lot easier. There's a plane. Can you hear that? I swear there's two Spitfires up there having a dogfight. No need. I'm recording. But anyway, it should make it a lot easier to make different take photos and video at different camera angles. So I'll turn the camera around so you can have a look. Let's have a look at the King a little bit more closer. So it's probably useful to mention some of the facts and figures that makes this the King. It really is a large watch. So measurements wise, it is 55 millimeters from lug to lug, 53.6 millimeters from side to side, and its depth comes in a whopping 17.5 millimeters thick. They are some large measurements. Now this watch came into the market around about 10 years ago, so back then it was a huge watch. When you look at some of the recent Mudmaster models, they come in around that 53.1, 53.2 millimeter from side to side. So they've crept up with the King. However, the King is still one of the largest G-Shock models that you can find out there. Although it has a large size, that size is quite deceptive, mainly because, oh, I just knocked the camera, sorry about that. Some of the materials are still similar to the materials that you get with general G-Shock watches. So you have a resin case, a mineral glass, there is a stainless steel back, there is another plastic section here, and it keeps it nice and light, so it still comes in at only 88 grams, which is pretty good. Now, just for some comparison's sake, some of you will possibly want to know how this differs against other watches. So here we have the King, which is the 56BB-1ER, next to my little green one here. Now This is your typical kind of size for a Casio Square. This comes in at 43.8 millimeters. This is the 5610 SU3ER. And if you put them next to each other, you could almost get two of these inside this. You know, the King is a clear whole centimeter, a whole 10 millimeters bigger than the 5610 here. Then a watch that I've reviewed in the past, here we've got the GA2000, which again the King dwarfs in size. This comes in at the GA2000 comes in at 48.7 millimeters, so it's still a nice sized watch, but still a good half a centimeter, 5 millimeters shorter than the King. Now when you put them side to side, you do see that they are similar in width. I think this one's got an extra 2 or 3 millimeters on the GA2000. This is a carbon core version, whereas the King here isn't a carbon core. Now there are some things to point out on the dial here. You'll see that these buttons, rather than having the old-fashioned style buttons like this one has, the buttons on the King are so much easier to depress because you have this recess that your thumb finds very easily, and when you press them in you get a nice beep. I didn't do it that time, I was just simulating it, but if I were to press it in, which maybe I'll do in a minute, you'll get a nice beep. Because these are higher and built into the bezel and the outer case, this does have mud resist features because of the extra layer of protection. On the inside here, hopefully you can see it says there Tough Solar, and on the inside of the face you have the Tough Solar cell. The watch face itself does have 3 readings, which are here down in this bottom right hand corner. These 3 readings show you the battery indication, or whether your battery is low, medium or high. The battery itself, when it's fully charged, will take up to approximately 27 months worth of charge. So if you were worried that, I don't know, maybe you were stuck in a mine for 27 months, maybe not to joke about that, because I suppose that does happen, but you would be able to get lots of battery out of this. That would be, however, with the power saving mode, and if you weren't using the light and constantly having your stopwatch going at the same time as well. So it would just purely be used as a watch. The functions on here on the main screen, you'll be able to see that you have the date, the day. You have the date in the top right hand corner, which unfortunately has the American format. You know, it's only the Americans that use it, so that you have the actual month and then the date, which is a bit of a shame. The rest of the world don't use that, but hey ho, it's just one of those things. Underneath there you have the time, so you've got hours, minutes and seconds. This is, because I'm an adult, this is in 24 hours. On the bottom here as well, you can also see what sort of signals or alarms you have set on the watch. Up in the top right hand corner here, if you depress this for a few seconds, that will then allow you to change the time, whereas if you just press it down once, what you can do is you can have a dual time function. So at the moment, probably should have set this beforehand, but if you set that to a different time around the world, you can then have 2 times displayed on your watch if you needed to. Press it again and it will put that back. As far as functions within the watch, it's a pretty standard fare actually, which makes this actually quite a good watch. You don't get as many functions. What's the name of the watch now? Damn it, I've forgotten. But you don't get as, I'll put it down in the bottom here, you don't get as many functions, but you still do get quite a lot. You get a lot of bang for your buck. So on your first press, that takes you through to world time. With the world time, you have 31 different time zones across 48 different countries that you can scroll through, which pretty much will mean wherever you are in the world, you'll be able to set a time. You kind of have to try and find a time zone or a city that's close to you. We then have alarms. You have 4 independent alarms with snooze functions, plus you also have the ability, which I really love on Casio watches, that you can have an hourly time signal. Press it again, you get then into stopwatch, which will take you down to a 1/100th of a second. Press it again, you then have a countdown timer, which will take you down to just 1 second. Press it again, and then it takes you back to that main screen. Although I haven't mentioned this specifically, hopefully you'll be able to see that it has that classic square front, just like my little green friend has here, which is a throwback to those retro G-Shock watches that came out in the early 80s. Some of the other things, although I've mentioned bits on the face and the buttons here around the back, you'll see it says on the here that it's shock resist. On the top here it says mud resist. The strap is a really nice strap, and this is probably one of the things that, having put this on, really does attract me and want me to wear this more. I have a 7.5, 7.75 inch wrist, so when I have other watches on, like this one for example, I find that when it's on, I just have a few lugs left, whereas with this, I put this on and it feels great because I have more strap than I need. It's a silly little thing, but it just feels more comfortable knowing that when that's in its keeper, there's less, or at least there's more distance before it comes out. I have other watches that I find after a while, the rest of my strap keeps coming out. So if you are a person with a large wrist, you'll find that this will fit your wrist really well. One of the other things that, as far as wearing this is concerned, because the back is so large, it fits across my wrist a whole lot better before it then starts to taper around the sides of my wrist. So it genuinely feels, even though it's so much larger, it feels more comfortable than my green friend here. And the strap itself, you have that typical G-Shock inside where it's got the compression bits, and then the straps. So the straps come round. This side, the shorter side, you have a plastic keeper. You have a bead blasted double tang clasp, and then on this side, you've just again got double holes all the way through that go all the way to the end, which help to get air to breathe in there. Just a side note, what I have found with this watch that I haven't found with other watches is on the back here, just in case for the people that really like to see those modules and the information on the back, if I can get that in, there you go. The module inside is a 3221, and it's also water resistant down to 20 bars, which is 200 meters. So if you are a professional diver, this can be used as a dive watch if needs be. But getting back to my original point, what I have found is, because I get such a good seal, because this fits on my wrist a lot better, I do find that I get a lot of water underneath here. With a lot of other watches, the water tends to get out quite easy, but when I've got this on, I find, having had a shower and then a few hours later, I still have water under the back here, so I have to take it off and dry it and then put it back on. That really is the only gripe that I have about this watch, and that's a stupid gripe. It is a ridiculous gripe, because generally I can't pick any faults with this watch whatsoever. One thing to point out is, it is thick. It is thick. So you will find if you have to wear a long sleeve shirt, or if you have to wear hoodies, whatever it is that you're putting on, if they are tight on your wrist, you will have a struggle getting them over this. Other than that, it's genuinely a really nice watch to wear. Just trying to think if there's anything else to point out. I suppose the last real thing really is the display. Hopefully here you'll be able to see, I've tried to keep it in the best light as possible. Because it is a negative display, some people have mentioned that they do struggle to see this during the day or in low light conditions. Now, I'd be lying if I said they were lying. They're not. There are times, especially in low light conditions, that you can struggle to read this. The beauty of it is, though, here you have a light. See if I can get this to work. Oh, it's hard to see here, but there is a light there. Because this is tough solar as well, you go outside, you really don't need to worry too much about pressing the light more often, mainly because you go out during the day and, you know, it just charges itself, whereas with a normal watch you'd have to, you know, be concerned that your battery will wear down after time. And that's it. That really is it. But oh, just look at it. Look at it. Now with the King, I've said a lot in a lot of recent videos, and I think it's something that maybe I'm getting to a certain period of my life that I'm starting to feel a lot of things towards nostalgia. But the biggest thing, and really biggest is the correct term for this, but the biggest thing for this, for me personally, comes down to nostalgia. That first time in probably the mid-90s when I bought my first G-Shock, I put it on my wrist and I looked down and I thought, Jesus Christ, that is ridiculous. That watch is massive. And since then other watches have got bigger, and it's become kind of commonplace that you see a G-Shock on somebody's wrists and you think, okay, it's a G-Shock, it's just a normal style watch in today's world. Whereas the King, it just takes me back every single time I put this on my wrist. It takes me back to the first ever G-Shock that I bought, and just that immense presence on your wrist. It fits me absolutely perfectly, and it really is a joy to own and to wear. I hope this helps. I will leave some links if you want to check out some links below. I'll leave some affiliate links as well so that you can find these if you want to, if you choose to use those. I do get a small kickback. It's to no extra cost to you. I just get a little kickback. It helps to fund my channel. I'll also leave some links in the description below for me if you want to follow me on social media. I'd always say check me out on Instagram. I'm on Facebook as well, but I tend to be on Instagram a whole lot more at Moorlander_EDC. And I guess really just to finish this, if you have liked this content, then please hit that like button. If at any point you thought I'd like to see more of this, then hit that subscribe button and the bell notification so you'll see all future content. And I'm also trying to see if I can get people to share my content. It helps out with the YouTube algorithm, so if you can share this, whether it's via Facebook or even WhatsApp, send it to a friend, then that helps massively. So there you go, from one King to another. Haha! Stay safe, stay Moorlander, and stay EDC.